can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? I mean, I look back at, I've been in, I guess, in longevity since 2004. And I remember when I met you, it was like, you were talking about telomeres back then. And I was like, no one even talk about telomeres back then. But here we are today. And
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about yourself and talk about your journey.
Well, let's talk about I call them telomeres because when I got involved, Cal Harley, who's one of the original telomere guys, is Canadian and they pronounce it telomeres. So I'm going to say telomeres. You guys can say telomeres, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Um, I want to just talk about that briefly because it's kind of an interesting story how I became the telomere diva. Um, so the short version of my life background is always a performer, always an actor. Moved from Indiana to go to acting school in New York. From New York, I got flown out to LA to do a pilot for a comedy show called Roadshow with John Candy and Rick Overton and some people. A lot of fun. Ended up for a long time in LA, then bi-coastal, but always interested, sort of on the side, editor of a fitness magazine, involved in being a pioneer with some very, worked with Johnny G promoting what didn't have a name at the time, but became spinning. So always kind of zeitgeistian sense for what the next thing was in fitness. Um, and out of that, it kind of flowed over into the world of anti-aging and longevity. Started going to A4M shows in Vegas before when they were at some goofy casino out on the outer limits of Vegas, and eventually they moved to the Venetian and that kind of thing. Out of that, I became sort of ensconced in the world of looking at what is the next new thing. It doesn't matter, given my fitness and acting background, it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in or how many leg lifts you do get to get your butt in shape if you're dead. So I started realizing longevity was the thing to look into. Um, Out of that, I was invited to a conference in Palm Springs where some top stem cell and telomere research were going to be doing a little sort of insider seminar. And I invited a friend of mine from New York. I said, you need to stop whatever it is you think you're doing. He was going to invest in a Medi Spa or something. I said, you need to come out and check this stuff out. So I'll make the story a little bit shorter here. Out of that, he got excited about the world of telomeres and stem cells and Geron Corporation. And he eventually jumped in big into that and said to me, you need to come to New York and help me launch this telomerase business, which I did. So I became actually, the world of telomeres is kind of at the forefront. And I'm going to say because of me, this technology was sitting on a back shelf at Geron Corporation. And had I not brought this guy with the money to get it going, it might still be sitting there. So I'm going to take credit for it. How about that? I'm just going to say it's all about me. But certainly, Dr. Bill Andrews, Calvin Harley, the guys that were involved with Geron then, were happy to see something happening with this technology. So that's my longevity background segued over into from showbiz in brief.
Wow. You've been in showbiz for a long time. Can you tell us a little about some of the movies you were in?
Yeah, well, the movie that everybody, the biggest movie I was in was in a movie called 48 Hours, and everybody likes to make jokes about the semi-nude scene. And I stopped the video, 50 times at that spot where you're, basically my butt's hanging out. But that was a big movie, blockbuster. I remember the screening for the cast and crew. We sat there at the end, the lights came up, and we were all dumbfounded, like, oh my God, this movie's awesome. And it became the first like 100 million plus blockbuster film. Now they're commonplace, but that was a big deal. I had a lot of fun in a movie called Yellowbeard with all the top comedy people in the world, the Monty Python crew, Cheech and Chong, you name it. Anybody that was funny was in that movie. A lot of fun to do that. I played anyway, that was a wonderful movie. Well, it wasn't a wonderful movie. It was my best experience in showbiz. I worked opposite James Mason. I played his, he snuck me on a pirate ship dressed as a man. I was Mr. Prostitute, but working with him was amazing. The best acting experience of my life. And other films, the cult B movie classic Chained Heat, Women Behind Bars. Um, I had a lot of fun in a movie called Party Line with Leif Garrett, playing a diabolical brother and sister who like to run around hooking up with people on party date lines and then murdering them, that kind of thing. A lot of stuff like that, TV, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow, that's an incredible journey too. I could imagine all the different things you've seen.
I'm back.
Oh, well, you know what? It's funny because I'm going to start a Substack blog. I realize people have been saying to me forever, "Oh, I can't believe that story. You got to write a book." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the tip of the iceberg." I'm actually going to do a Substack blog pretty soon here. And I'm going to just parse out some of the stories rather than trying to tie them together in a book because it's disjointed. There is no tying it together. They're all unique and weird and bizarre and wonderful and horrible. So I'm going to do that so that people can get a little inkling about what life for a girl from Indiana who goes to New York and segues to LA is like.